science as a discipline uh, is not as flexible as art. So, but it encourages experimentation. You do an experiment, maybe the result is favorable. If it's favorable, you can use it for some other means. If it's not, you discard it. And I feel in my art making process, it's the same thing. I might do color experiments or I might do material experiments, and they might be complete failures. They might fail completely, but I'll learn to keep something from those things that was worthwhile. So yeah, I think the scientific method itself definitely influences my practice. Nature definitely influences my practice in the sense that it's very dynamic. The color palettes also influence it. I'm definitely inspired by nature, but my work is highly abstracted. I'm not trying to recreate representations of nature. I'm not trying to paint a tree or paint a sky or, paint clouds. But sometimes I want to paint the feeling of a cloud, or maybe paint the feeling of a tree, or the feeling of a city, the feeling of a body of water. And
Hmm.
these things definitely then influence the work
Right,
indirectly.
right. And I think this is also something that I can relate to very much when you speak about, traveling back and forth from a different place, and then eventually, when you're kind of in university or even school, and you're surrounded by people who are so aware of where they belong to, or where they come from. There's this
Hmm.
huge gap of, you know well, identity crisis really. And then coming back to
Hmm.
Pakistan, you kind of mentioned how, you know I can imagine, because I felt the same way, just kind of lost. And
Yeah.
while you're also trying to understand what to pursue in your career, you're also simultaneously stuck in a moment where you're trying to understand where you're coming from and what it is that you can call home. And because you work with abstraction so much, and as you said, the
Hmm.
feeling of something, how do you
Hmm.
think that displacement impacts your work?
This is something that I was really thinking about lately. Why do I make images the way I make images? Um, what's going on? And after I sort of started looking into what it means to leave a country that's already so divided, like this country was literally born out of a division um, that trickled through generations, like through my parents, through my grandparents, and now to me. I'm already from a partition state, and I'm now a partitioned person within a partition state because now I have the western half of Kaiser Irfan, and now I have the eastern half of Kaiser Irfan, and that mixes sort of what makes me who I am as a person. But I feel that's also the same in my art. There's something that's always grabbed from the West and something that's always grabbed from the East. I wouldn't feel comfortable by saying, okay, my work is just Pakistani art or this is Pakistani contemporary art. And
Mm,
in the same way, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that, oh, this is westernized abstraction
mm,
because, that carries its own baggage.
right.
Uh, yeah, and I feel like that sort of influences my work the most. This whole idea of division, partition, identity, something that's always changing. Home is always changing. The home that I'm in right now might not be my home in 10 years or 15 years. There's always that feeling of leaving. And there's a great quote in a book about Zuhur al-Akhlaq. It's called The Enigma of Departure. And I feel like this is what third culture kids sort of deal with the most. Like there's always this feeling of leaving, but you don't know when it is. You
Mm,
only know it is when it is. It's no longer an enigma until it happens. So I feel like that's something that's really driving me right now making work.